It's a great day at the Academy of Scholars. Welcome to another episode of Scholarly Speaking Live with Dr. Stacy Lambert-Johnson, the Director of Student Success at the Academy of Scholars. I am Benny Crane Jr., the Assistant Director of Student Success. Today's topic will discuss using incentives to motivate your children.
Thank you for joining us for today's live session. No matter where you're joining us from, whether you're at work or at home, we pray that you're having a great AOS day and hope that you can visit us here on campus someday soon. So last week we talked about how to help your child set goals. Did any of you do some goal setting with your children? I hope so. This week we're exploring using incentives to motivate your child. But before we get started, Benny, where can our viewers watch today's live session once it's over?
Everything from this show ends up on our website, academyofscholars.com, including both the audio and video versions. Now, if you love the video version, you can find it on our Facebook page, YouTube channel, LinkedIn, and Instagram. If you're looking for something to listen to in the car on the way to work, you can download the audio versions anywhere you download your favorite podcast. Now, we want to take this opportunity to say hello to all the people who are joining us live today. Also, shout out to all the people who follow us on our social media platforms. We appreciate you joining us. Now, do us a favor. Tell your friends we're on. All you have to do is hit that share button right there. Comment and tell us about incentives you use to motivate your children. Are your children self-motivated or do they need that little push? Tell us. We want to know.
Benny, I am excited to discuss today's topic because I can't tell you how many times as a teacher and a principal, and I'm sure you can say the same, when meeting with parents about, regarding their children's academics or behavior, I've heard the same question. Dr. Johnson, do you have any suggestions on what more I can do at home? I've done everything.
Me too. And I think what's the most maddening part of this is when you have multiple children and what works with one child doesn't work with the other. I can remember with my daughter, who's the oldest, that I could stop her from doing something when she was a toddler with just a sound. Ying, ying. She would freak out and stop immediately. Now, when my son came along 23 months later and he started walking, he was not fazed one bit. I would go ying, ying, and he would do whatever it was I was trying to stop him from doing and then look at me and laugh. So your first child might think you got this whole parenting thing figured out. Then the next one comes along and makes you have to hit the reset button.
Wow, I feel the same way about my two kids. Now, my response to parents is always that parenting is difficult.
Yes.
There's no parent manual, right? Not that I know. Do you have a parent manual?
I don't have one.
Right, exactly. So we need a supportive team. We need prayer, lots of it, and we need an arsenal of tools when raising our children. Incentives are one of those tools that parents can use when it comes to getting their children to do things they don't like, they don't want to do, or it may be difficult for them to do. Incentives are used to motivate and change behavior. But before we can talk about using incentives, we have to understand how motivation works in the brain. There are two types of motivation, intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation stems from doing something because it's enjoyable and interesting. Children may be intrinsically motivated to play video games, play a sport, or do another activity that they find interesting and fun. They're not doing it to get a prize or receive recognition. Extrinsic motivation is the exact opposite of intrinsic motivation. It is motivation that stems from getting an outside reward. So children aren't doing it because they necessarily enjoy doing it or because it's fun to do. They want that reward. So for example, a child may study for a test because they want to get an A.
Yes, and getting that A could be an intrinsic motivation as well. Their desire to make an A comes from within. While some kids may not be motivated to get an A at all, but they will work for an A if you offer them some kind of reward.
That's true. Now, some people see rewards as bribes, but I disagree. Rewards are a type of positive reinforcement. And rewards are what our society is basically built on. When you go to work, you get a paycheck, right? Now, what if you weren't getting a paycheck? Would you be motivated to come to work anyway? Just asking. For some children, certain tasks are not intrinsically motivating. So we have to provide incentives to motivate them to want to do it. Incentives provide positive reinforcement for a desired behavior while helping to encourage children to complete a task.
And this was something I had to come to grips with, Stacy, because one of my children is intrinsically motivated academically and the other is more extrinsically motivated. And I wanted the extrinsic motivated child to want it. I want you to want to make A's. But extrinsic motivation is not a bad thing. External rewards can be a great tool for getting your children to stay motivated and on task, especially when they have to do something that they find difficult or boring, like homework or even household chores.
That's true. Now, how should incentives be used? First, incentives should be used for one specific behavior at a time. Using incentives for multiple things creates an expectation by your child that he or she should be rewarded, well, for everything. Instead, start building your child up so that intrinsic motivation begins to develop. Second, praise the process and not the outcome. For example, as they are working toward their goal, provide verbal praise. When they get a good grade on a test, praise their effort and don't focus on the grade. When you praise a child's efforts, it helps to build their confidence and encourages them to take on harder tasks.
Yes, and the reality is kids are more likely to repeat behavior they are praised or rewarded for. And please try to avoid criticizing them. A good rule of thumb is to praise your child 5 times for every time you say something negative.
Yes. Now, third, give your child choices. This gives them something that they have control over and builds their internal motivation because all children want to feel that they have a voice. I have a few that I have personally used on my own children when they were growing up. And guess what? The best part is that they were free. I know we all like free, right?
Yes,
now,
yes.
Here are my top picks. Staying up late, but not too late. Maybe 5 to 30 minutes extra depending on your child's age and accomplishment and whether it's a school night or not. What's for dinner? Let them choose, not just for them, but for the entire family. Have them choose a movie for you to sit down and watch together as a family. Have extra books at bedtime and allow them to choose those extra books at bedtime. And there could be extra time on a tablet or a game system.
And the great thing about giving your child choices is it satiates their need for power and control over their actions and decisions.
It
Satiates.
Satiates. Fourth, reward your child immediately and consistently. Giving the incentive immediately after the goal is met reinforces the desired behavior.
And this reinforces the behavior because if you don't give that praise and approval, then you might actually disincentivize them from continuing the behavior.
That's right. Now, fifth, use a consistent schedule and a time limit. Your child's access to the incentive must be time limited to maintain its power day to day. If you give your child unlimited access and possession of the incentive, it may lose its motivating power and have to be taken away, which then becomes a punishment and a negative consequence and no longer an incentive. Avoid having to go through that by having a time limit.
That's great advice, Stacy.
Thank you. Now, when it comes to stopping an undesirable behavior, don't use rewards. When addressing negative behavior, parents need to get to the why of the behavior. Talk to your child and together figure out why they are engaging in negative behavior. Is it due to a lack of expressive language skills to communicate, anxiety, not feeling connected to their teacher? Whatever the causes of the negative behavior, that must be addressed. Simply providing a reward or incentive for them not doing it is not going to resolve the problem.
One thing I'd like to share with parents is we often decry children's behavior when they do things that we don't like, when we've watched the behavior develop and said nothing. Now, for example, your child gets a grade that's unsatisfactory and you blame video games and screen time and you immediately tell them, no more video games, or give me that phone.
That's
now,
true.
we talked about video games and screen time in episode 11 and cell phones in episode 17 if you're interested. But one thing that I found that I can motivate my kids is by incentivizing behaviors that will help them create better habits by having them earn their screen time. And this is 7 days a week, so it even includes the weekends. Now, they have a checklist that gives them time with their phones, video games, and television. Like household chores only earns them 15 minutes of screen time, and homework only gives them 30 minutes. So they're engaging in daily, meaningful activities to earn that time, especially on weekends. Now, I purposely put things on that checklist that will push them towards things that will pay dividends for them later. Like an hour of SAT prep gives them unlimited screen time. So I have my 7th grade daughter who starts every Saturday and Sunday by doing an hour of practice of SAT questions every weekend. This checklist has been awesome because I have incentivized my kids' preparation and helped to limit the screen time during the week.
Wow, that is creative parenting.
Thank you.
That's amazing. And 6, parents, don't forget praise. I can't overstate the importance of praise. Studies show that being recognized for your work is important to not only children, but adults as well. When praising your child, make sure you praise their efforts and the process like I mentioned earlier. Make sure your praise is specific. For example, saying, I like how you organized your room and how neatly your bed was made. I can tell you worked hard on that. That is more specific and effective than simply saying, good job cleaning your room. And parents, if you're of the mindset that not giving praise at all because it is expected that they do it, know that that is the motivation killer by itself. Mm-hmm. Children hear from adults when they do something wrong all the time because we want to bring it to their attention for the change behavior. But we should also notice when they do something right and say something about it because that serves as a huge motivator for them.
Just try to make sure your praise is genuine and age appropriate. Mm-hmm. If your praise is exaggerated, your child might not even believe it and they may see it as sarcasm. And please be careful using sarcasm with your children, especially young children. Mm-hmm. Many of them have trouble understanding sarcasm. So think about it this way. Teenagers might not want to be praised publicly for their efforts, whereas your toddlers might love being singled out for praise.
That's right. Now, finally, parents, vary the size of the incentive according to your child's accomplishment to allow your child a sense of success. When they accomplish an easier goal, encourage them to work toward a more difficult goal, making the incentive larger for the more challenging or difficult task. Keeping in mind to reward the effort and not the achievement itself to help build your child's confidence. Well, what do you think? What are incentives you use to motivate your child? Do you praise the effort and not the outcome? Is your praise specific? Did you learn something new from today's episode? Comment and let us know your thoughts on today's topic.
And if you're looking for more information to help your child with their motivation, go to our website at academyofscholars.com/scholarly speaking resources. In the meantime, we suggest you check out the book, The Self-Driven Child by Dr. William Strixrud and Ned Johnson. This book discusses the science and sensibility of giving your child control over their lives and finding their own motivation. And remember, no matter where you live in the world, you can give your child access to this exceptional Christian affordable education with the Academy of Scholars Premier Online Learning. Not only does the Academy of Scholars give your child the opportunity to engage in school at their own pace, but we also provide a comprehensive curriculum, one with classes like coding and computer science that will have your child excited about school each day. The Academy of Scholars Premier Online Learning is the online school you've been looking for.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today's live session. To learn more about our amazing school, the Academy of Scholars, please go to our website at academyofscholars.com. Join us next week as we continue our live discussions. Next week, we'll be talking about giving consequences for undesired behavior.
Oh, we talking about whooping?
Maybe. Not really. Until next time, I am Dr. Stacy Lambert-Johnson.
And I'm Benny Crane Jr.
saying goodbye